You know, in a world that is absolutely sprinting toward an AI-powered future, you might be surprised to hear about this powerful counter-movement that's really picking up steam. It's called the Analog Backlash, and it's all about people making a deliberate choice to unplug and reconnect with the real world. So let's get into what this is all about. So, what if I told you that in just a couple of years, the most radical, the most forward-thinking, the most cutting-edge piece of technology is actually no tech at all? I'm serious. We're talking about this analog backlash, which is really just a conscious decision people are making to slow down, unplug, and get back in touch with the tangible world. And look, this isn't just a handful of people taking a digital detox for a weekend. What we're seeing is a genuine, widespread cultural shift. You could almost call it the Great Disconnect. Get this. A recent survey found that a full half of all Americans are now intentionally building screen-free habits into their daily lives, specifically for their mental well-being. I mean, that is a massive chunk of the population actively pushing back against the digital tide. And you can see this feeling translate directly into, well, what people are buying. Searches for analog hobbies are up 136%, and sales of craft kits jumped 86%. But the wildest stat? Searches for yarn kits have just exploded by 1,200%. Yeah, you heard that right. This is not just a niche trend anymore. It's becoming a real market force. So, that leads us to the big question, right? What is actually driving this mass migration away from our screens? Why are so many people trading doom scrolling for things like knitting needles and puzzle books? Well, a huge part of the answer can be summed up in two words: AI slop. You've probably seen it. It's that endless stream of repetitive, kinda unoriginal, and let's be honest, often soulless content generated by AI that seems to be flooding all of our feeds and search results. And this points to a real human cost. As AI researcher Avril Epps puts it, this stuff is genuinely fatiguing. We're just getting worn out by all the digital noise and the lack of real authenticity. There's this growing sense that our attention is just a resource to be mined. And the data absolutely backs this up. When you ask people how all this screen time makes them feel, the top answers are overwhelmed, anxious, and unsatisfied. These aren't just minor annoyances, right? These are serious hits to our well-being, and it's what's pushing people to find some refuge offline. Okay, so it's one thing to feel totally burnt out by our screens, but it's a whole other thing to actually do something about it. So that brings us to the practical side of this whole movement. What exactly is in the analog toolkit? You know, the most popular swaps are actually refreshingly simple. Nearly a third of people are going back to paper notebooks. About the same number are choosing physical books over e-readers, and just over a quarter are using paper calendars again. We're also seeing this amazing resurgence of things like film cameras and even old-school iPods. You know, things that offer a more intentional, focused experience. This has even sparked a bit of a viral trend: the analog bag. And it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. A bag you carry with you, filled with things like a book, a crossword puzzle, maybe a sketchbook, just to give your hands something to do other than reflexively reaching for your phone every few minutes. And there's some real science to this, which is cool. Habit formation research shows that replacing a bad habit is way more effective than just trying to erase it. The cue, like being bored or stressed, stays the same. But instead of the routine of scrolling, you swap in a new routine from your bag. And the reward is a genuine feeling of engagement and accomplishment, which actually rewires your brain over time. But of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. As this movement gets bigger, it also runs into some valid criticisms and complexities that are pretty important to understand. This is definitely more than just a passing TikTok trend. And here it is, the elephant in the room. How can a movement that's all about getting offline be spreading online? Isn't there a huge contradiction in making TikToks about your new analog life? Well, the people in the movement are totally aware of this irony. As Shaughnessy Barker, who actually uses a landline at home, admits, "I'm a walking oxymoron." She knows that to spread the message and build a community around these ideas, she often has to use the very tools she's trying to get away from. And this really gets to the crucial point. For most people in this movement, the goal isn't a total rejection of all things digital. A creator named Loney puts it perfectly. It's about shifting from mindless consumption to intentional creation. It's about using these platforms as a tool instead of letting them use you. So this brings us to the bigger picture. This personal lifestyle choice is really a symptom of a much larger shift in how we think about technology's role in our lives, in our society, and even in our workplaces. And it is fascinating to see who is leading this charge. A full 63% of Gen Z and 57% of millennials are consciously making an effort to get offline. So this is very much a youth-led movement. The very people who grew up completely immersed in the digital world are now the ones most actively setting new boundaries. And these ideas are definitely spilling over into the professional world. We're seeing two competing visions for the future of AI at work. There's the old model, technology first, where AI is seen as a job threat and efficiency is the only thing that matters. But the emerging model, inspired by this analog thinking, is human-centric, where AI is there to augment human potential and psychological safety is a top priority. The World Economic Forum really captures this idea perfectly. The goal isn't just to automate tasks away. It's to redesign work itself, combining uniquely human skills like creativity and critical thinking with the incredible power of AI. It's all about partnership, not replacement. Which leaves us with a final, kind of provocative thought. For decades, innovation has always meant more connection, more data, more speed. But what if the next great leap forward, for our own well-being, for our creativity, and maybe even for our productivity, is actually learning how and when to disconnect?